Hello everybody, this is Laura Susan Johnson. I hope I'm looking into the camera or thereabouts. I'm finally back after a month-long or more absence. I was really sick and I had to be hospitalized. So anyway, I want to review The Dating Game Killer, or Dating Game Killer as they called it. It's a TV movie that aired on Investigation Discovery last year, sometime between summer and winter, well, summer and fall of last year, I guess you could say. And it is about Rodney Alcala. I guess that's how you pronounce it. According to the movie, he gets mad when you don't pronounce it right. Rodney Alcala, as far as I know, he is still alive on death row in California, and it's believed that he's killed a lot of people, like way over 100 people plus, and he has been the most he has put this country through grief as far as retrials, appeals, just tormenting his victims' families, you name it. He is just he's the epitome of a monster. I think I don't want to say this and insult people, but he's got one over on Ted Bundy as far as being just a nasty bastard of the highest order. So anyway, the story begins when a Good Samaritan just happens to witness a young girl get into the car with a stranger. A stranger just pretty much lures a young girl, an 8-year-old girl, I think, somewhere between 8 and 12 years old. And he calls the police knowing that it looks suspicious, and they track this character down just as he's pretty much nearly killed the girl after raping her. Which of course I'm going to put spoilers at the beginning of this, and from there it's pretty much a 20-year, I think, manhunt, similar to the Gary Ridgway case. It takes them a long time to piece together this man and all the crimes he's done. He changes his name, he moves cross country. It all begins in California with the young girl being kidnapped and raped. And then he changes his name, moves to New York, becomes a camp counselor, just so he can get his, he hits on, underage girls at camps, and he's just a creep, pedophile, and he's constantly looking for victims, constantly looking for young girls and young boys to groom and victimize and stuff like that. So he's just awful. He's just this parasite. So he's so prolific as far as criminalism that they can't even figure out, is this the guy who did this? Is this the guy who did this crime over here in this state? But finally, one day at a beach in California, he takes pictures of these 2 underage girls, one of them who is about to start a job at a ballet school, a clerical job of like an office job, and she's 12 years old, and he takes pictures of her and her friend before she leaves for her first day of work. And of course she doesn't make it, and the community is wondering what's happened to her. And a few weeks later, her body is discovered in a remote area of the California, rural countryside somewhere. And from there on, I'll just leave it up to you to watch it. It's not a perfect movie, though. It just felt a little bit incomplete to me. I'm not really sure why, but the actors do a pretty good job. I've never really seen Carrie Preston in anything movie-wise, and she did really good in this one. Guillermo Diaz. The only thing I ever saw him in before this was 200 Cigarettes, which is a movie from 1999, I think. Had a whole bunch of people in it, like Paul Rudd, Christina Ricci, a comedy movie, a party movie. And he barely spoke a word in that. I'm pretty sure that was Guillermo Diaz, so I've never seen him in anything besides 200 Cigarettes. So he did a really good job in this movie as the killer. And then as the lead detective on the case, Robert Knepper, who played the lead detective. And I know there was another one. I think it was Matt Barr, who played the other detective, who worked very hard to get this man off the streets. This man, Alcala, was so, I don't want to say ballsy, but he was so blatant and so full of his own, I can just do anything I want, no one will get me, no one will ever figure me out, that he went on the dating game to try to get a date, try to get a murder victim, basically. And he actually won. But the girl who was trying to get the dates, trying to get a bachelor or whatever, she was creeped out. Her instincts told her, I don't even want this guy. I should have picked another bachelor. So, yeah, he was that bad. And he was also, unless the facts aren't really true that they gathered up, he comes across as a mama's boy and a wimp. He has to be a bully in order to make himself feel better. He's just so miserable as a human being that he has to hurt others in order to lift his own self-esteem up, which is a ridiculously false way to lift up your self-esteem. How long can that possibly last? So anyway, it's a pretty good movie. It's not exactly one of my favorites. I think To Catch a Killer, which I reviewed over a month ago, is far better. But this, for a post 9/11 movie about crime and not being safe, I'm sorry, my mouth is really dry today. It's not bad. I would probably give it a solid 7 to 8 out of 10 for the acting and for the period detail. They did a great job recreating the 70s. Alcala was very active, especially during the 70s, I would say. But he murdered a lot of people. One thing I thought that they should have included was a lot of the photographs that were discovered in his locker. He had a stash of hundreds of photographs. He would just take photographs of women just on the street, just like you'd walk up to him and just snap photos of them. And they'd be like, what are you doing? Or he would have, people over to visit and take pictures of them, which is fine. Or he'd ask permission. Can I take your picture? I'm a photographer. And that would be okay, I guess. But other times he would just, and you could see the startled expressions on their faces, like, you just take pictures of people without asking? Are you creepy or not? And one lady, and you can see her if you watch this 48 Hours Mystery or 60 Minutes or 2020. There's so many shows out there, I get confused. One sister who had been searching for her sister for, gosh, 20 years or so. Her sister had been pregnant. She had just announced to the sister that she was pregnant and that her boyfriend and her were really having a rough time in their relationship. She just barely, I guess last year, found out that this pregnant sister, after breaking up with her boyfriend, hooked up with Rodney Alcala, and Rodney Alcala murdered this girl in Wyoming, and they had found this Jane Doe in the desert, skeletal remains, and they identified the sister through a photograph that Alcala took of her right before he murdered her. It reeks of the Robert Ben Rhodes case when he murdered that young girl from Texas. She knew it was her by that picture because of her little pinky toe. It's just, if this sounds confusing, just watch any videos about Rodney Alcala, aka the dating game killer. It's just creepy. It's really creepy. So anyway, I'm really sorry for the ramble, but I'll insert pictures and stills from this movie. And again, it's not a bad movie, but I thought it was just a little incomplete. They could have, since they made this movie so recently, I thought they could have included that sister's story too. And it would have been a really good dramatic addition to the story. This is another grieving family who this man affected. So anyway, 7 out of 10. I recommend it. I don't think it's a bad movie. It beats the hell out of a lot of stuff that's, on TV. Anyway, we'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.